the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome back to People Power. My best friend and business partner, Alejandro Alvarez. Say hello to people.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here again.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be back. As you guys know, we are trying to make sure that we're keeping these conversations moving about how we empower people to make change in our communities. And we're blessed to have two incredible people here with us today. We're going to give them a quick introduction. But as you know, my business partner and I run a company called Soulful Synergy, and through our work, we seek to empower community members, and we seek to destroy the barriers that cause inequality. This show intends to be an extension of that work. So every time you're joining us, you're going to hear from different types of community leaders, from the grassroots, from politics, social entrepreneurs, business leaders, who are going to share what they're doing to make change and why and how. And so today, we're fortunate to have two great people. We got to work on an event today for MWBEs. MWBE stands for Minority Women Business-Owned Enterprises. And these two guests have a lot of information for us to share about how we can empower minorities and women to really move into a new economic opportunity and liberation. So first up, we have Mr. Desmonde Monroe. Desmonde is an innovative executive consultant with more than 10 years of diverse experience in disaster recovery, community development, compliance, program management, in a fast-paced organizations. He's a high achiever, managing multiple multi-million-dollar portfolios and addressing complex firm-wide management challenges with the ability to implement and drive changes. He's developed proprietary project management software for the organizations to increase revenue and foster performance improvement. He's an industry leader that is one of Business Equality Magazine's 2019 40 Under 40, and featured in other publications such as BuzzFeed, Blavity, and Authority Magazine, to name a few. We're really fortunate to have Desmonde here. He is the CEO and founder of the Monroe Group. Desmonde, how's it going today?
Hey, how's it going? It's going well, actually. It's been a great day.
It really has been a great day. And let me do a quick intro of your partner there, Miss Lindi, and we'll get right into the conversation. So Lindi Nguyen works with Desmonde at the Monroe Group. Hey, Lindi, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. Lindi is the daughter of Vietnamese refugees. She was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, attended Northeastern University before working as a paralegal for the United States Attorney's Office. After realizing she wanted to work in industry that fosters more inclusivity and equity, she went on to get her master's in public policy from Duke University, where she focused on inclusive economic development. In her role as a senior project manager for the Monroe Group, she tackles projects that emphasize public-private partnerships, community resiliency, and inclusive growth. And Lindi is committed to the intersection of community development and economic development, with affordable housing development and resilient community programming at the center. And so we are extremely grateful to be with you both. As you said, it has been a great day. We actually held this conference earlier today for MWBEs, Minority Women Business Enterprises, over 200 registered attendees, some good 30 government agencies. Lindi, you were on a lot of the planning and speaking today. How do you think it went, and what do you think we maybe accomplished through that conversation or multiple conversations today?
I think it went so smoothly. Huge shout out to BizNow, who was our tech sponsor, and they had a whole tech team helping us really plan out the logistics of it all. I would say what we accomplished today is that we kind of really opened up a lot of conversations between MWBEs and procurement officers, government agencies, and we kind of showed them like, look, we're here, we're ready to work. Where are your projects at, you know?
Absolutely. Desmond, why is it important that these communications are being fostered with government agencies and procurement officers? Why is it so important that they know that we're here to ready to do business?
Well, because one, it's an economic development tool, and usually MWBEs, when they start getting bigger, they usually don't leave their communities. They just kind of like spread the wealth, and that's what we need. But what I saw in this event today was a different conversation. I've been on the public and the private side. I understand how the conversations go. This was the questions that were being asked and the solutions that we were looking for were formed completely different. And it was just a very powerful conversation today. And I think a lot of people learned a lot. And I think the attendees who used to go to the other kind of standard procurement events, I mean, just by their comments and how they were reacting, they were fed a whole kind of different meal, and they were definitely satisfied.
I like to hear that. I mean, definitely we put a lot of thought into it. And I think why it was so different, to your point, is it was planned by business owners as opposed to what's usually planned by government agencies. And so the lens in which we view it and the questions in which we wanted to answer for our guests were, I think, just very different than when you have, the state planning it or SBS planning it. It's just different mindsets or mentalities. Alejandro, what did you think, out of the conversations today and how it played out?
Well, the conversations were great. There was a lot of insight, and what I really appreciated about everyone that spoke was, number one, there was, definitely everybody was about their business, but they also brought that component of, hey, we have to be human beings, right? We have to build up that network. It's not just about, let's check out somebody's website and send them an email and say, okay, I want to pursue this RFP, right? Or pursue this procurement opportunity. And it was more also at this, saying, yes, identify where your role is in this space, but also don't forget that you have to make those connections and also be able to build that rapport with those individuals that you're trying to work with, right? And I thought that was very, in this time that we're living in COVID, right? And we had to run this event virtually, right? It created this situation again, that another space between us and the people we're trying to work with, right? And everyone that was on that event. So that was something that I really, really appreciated, that we were able to come together and emphasize is still the need that even if we have to even speak virtually and have these events virtually and create these relationships virtually, not to forget that human component. And it was just emphasized throughout the whole event. And again, I think that was one of the most valuable, principles and takeaways from what was spoken about today.
Yep. Yeah, I felt a lot of good community. I know we talked that word up quite a bit within the event because we want to build a community of minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses that are looking for opportunity but not always sure where to connect and where to go. And we talked a lot about building out this community, and I think it was felt today. So Desmond, you have been in different, as you mentioned, public, private, different sections of business. What does community development mean to you? When you hear that word, what does it really mean to develop a community? And why is that the work that you've chosen to get into?
You asked something, because it was not only starting in Philadelphia, on the Diamond Street project, seeing how you can marry. That's the first time I saw real estate development married with kind of like a social work component. And that's when they had the FRCI. So Penrose, back then, when they had a different president, Kimberly Fry, she put this whole thing together. Like, we can't go in and develop a community with existing residents without offering them some sort of social component. And I was like, well, that just makes sense. And so after working there and then coming back to New York, I started working at small firms, trying to like do the same thing. And then I went to Lero, and then from Lero straight to the governor's office. And then that's when I saw it on a massive scale, because Sandy was just, it was a monster. So it was community development from here to all the way to, upstate New York. And I was in the room with some very smart people. Like at the time we had AECOM on it, but when that happened, I was actually in the room with the president of AECOM working on this stuff. Like we were in the room with all these decision makers and all these very, very powerful people, and just all you could do is just shut up and absorb, right? Because that was your best standpoint, and that's what I did. And then seeing how that whole thing developed, I just saw a better way of finding where we live, and I start romanticizing with like where people will live, like the kind of stories I can create by developing homes, because so much will happen inside of a home. Right? People will fall in love, they'll have children, they'll like everything around this box that I can create. And it just became more I guess, yeah, it became very romantic to me. And then I was just like, all right, then if I can merge it with, people and getting people jobs, if I could just leave something here, something better than what I found it. Because to tell you the truth, and not to be like a downer, but sometimes things suck. And it's enough people doing the wrong thing. And if I can do the right thing and make money, it's a no-brainer for me.
Oh, I feel you on that. No, it's funny. You're not a downer. Like, oh, I still am. But growing up, I was such an idealist, and I definitely thought changing the world would not be this massive undertaking that it has progressively become as you get older, because you just see all the inequities in a different light than you did when you were younger. You see how again rooted these systems are and how difficult they are to change. And so yeah, I think it is, things do suck, and we need to be bringing positivity to the world. That's why this show exists. That's why we want to meet like-minded people and have these discussions. And so yeah, it is tough sometimes. Lindi, you connected with Desmonde, it's been a few years now, a couple of plus years. Why public policy in college? What was that pivot when you decided, I'm going to take a whole shift? And then now working with the Monroe group and all the work that you guys are tackling, how do you see your role in bringing equity and bringing opportunities to people?
So when I was working at the U.S. Attorney's Office, things just weren't sitting right with me. The criminal justice system, a lot of my cases, we were just honestly locking up people of color and poor people. And so I took a shift into public policy to try to make a bigger change. And the more economic development classes that I took, I just came to see that there were traditional economic development classes, but where it really gets inclusive is where it blends with community development. That is the component of economic development that is truly inclusive. It's where you are in your community, you are fostering actual growth within it, and you are actually including people who have been left out of the system for so long and offering them opportunities to kind of rise up. You know what I mean? And so I think that a lot of the same vision I saw just learning about that kind of intersection I saw in the Monroe group and its kind of mission to be resilient, to look at the people of the communities that we're doing projects in, and to really inspire change, hope, and growth in an inclusive way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Lindy, I got to ask you a follow-up to that. So, coming out, most of us coming out, I guess we would say out of our shell, we have this, I like to call it, which is very powerful, right? This naive idealism, right? That we come out and just like we all just mentioned pretty much that we could come and change the world, right? But what has been one of those, like the biggest surprises you've encountered with how you had perceived the world could work and how you could think things should have been working compared to the reality that you've encountered? And with that said, how have you overcome that, right? Because I ask this because of the world that we're living in the sense of there's a lot of college students, even seniors, that have missed a whole year of schooling, a whole year of their lives, and it's like there's a piece that's missing as well, that life hasn't turned out what you thought out to be, right? And I'm assuming the same thing with you, Lindy, when you joined this space, right? There's a component that was like, wow, this is exactly what I thought. but to another component, it wasn't. Right, it was just like it was a surprise. So what was some of like one of those biggest surprises, or a couple if you have, and how did you overcome that and pivot, I guess, to continue on to keep working, right? Because now, like you just mentioned, we just ran a whole MWBE event, so you're still here putting in the extra work. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I definitely took away in policy school is that in the political system that we're in now, the wins will take time, right? And like in any kind of space, whether it's environmental or it's the criminal justice system, if you're going to be in that fight, you have to be fighting that fight for decades. And then I think one shock we all faced, not just in school, but everyone, was the Trump administration, right? So you're fighting that fight, and all of a sudden someone comes in and writes an executive order, and all of a sudden the 10 years that you just put in to passing this one bill for this one incremental shift just gets executive ordered away. Like, what? But I think something that keeps on inspiring hope is just picking the industry that you are really passionate about. And I think it's hard to not be passionate about your own community, about investing in the growth of your community. And honestly, it's a happier administration now. There's a lot more hope in the air.
Yeah, now we could definitely feel that, and yeah, no, and I appreciate that, because it's something that, I mean, that we all encounter coming out of the gates, that certain things are not what we thought, right? And I guess for Desmonde, right? To us, you have been someone, even I wouldn't even say someone, you have been of a mentor, right? You taught us a lot. You have showed us like the opportunities, also the barriers, and now again with the point that I made earlier about even COVID in this space, right? How do you perceive the game? How has the game changed because of COVID? How has the game changed, even on the network opportunity, building relationships, even identifying opportunities, because you can't even hit the streets to even walk by a development and say, hey, that could potentially work there. So what have you seen change? Like, what have been the biggest changes, and what are the like, how do you adapt to those changes to be able to continue to be successful in this space?
So the one thing that we saw last year was definitely a drop in any sort of communication with procurements. It was just dead air. And thankfully, with our partnership and our partners and the people that support us, we were able to carry through. But as we carried through, we did not stop. We diversified. The Monroe group was born out of, the Monroe Accelerator was born out of the pandemic. You know what I mean? We had time to go ahead and do other projects, to really go into affordable housing and really take a look at that. So it was basically making those decisions. It was myself, Lindi, our partners were go, no go, we were at the table. But man, the opportunities that we were able to sift through, and we were diligent in doing it. I think at the end of it, I think we submitted, I don't want to go crazy, but like $50 to $60 million worth of RFPs. Now, didn't win them all, and but that's all right. Oh. So you know what I mean? So, and I think that's just what it was, and it was just so you had to, like, usually I would spend a lot more resources and went after a lot more projects. But I guess the good thing about the pandemic, it forced us to kind of like chill out and slow down and reassess our priorities. And I think that we came up with a product that is just going to help so many people. And so in a way, it was like, but if it didn't happen, I don't know if we would have had that time to come out with that other project. So I'm thankful in a way that we just had time to put that together, because when I saw the commercial and when I see everything, it's like, it's really a labor of love, and I'm just really proud of it. And I'm proud of the people who worked on it. So it's just
So you
amazing.
mentioned it, so now we got to let you talk about it. So we're gonna get there anyway. But
I didn't
now,
mean it felt like it's like a commercial. I didn't. I was definitely just.
no, you're fine. It's just the passion just came out, and it already turned itself into like a hype now. So now people want to know, what is the Monroe Accelerator? What are we talking about when we say Monroe Accelerator? What is that? What should that mean to people?
Well, it's a online platform where you get teaching from uh, industry experts about how to navigate this project from our perspective. Kind of how the MWBE event was kind of from our perspective. Well, now we're talking about contracting and how to get into it from even if you're a small firm, because we had to really think about systems. We were on the budget. We were a startup, and we did some amazing things, and we partnered with some really big companies, and like just especially recently, like I mean, it's doable, and we want to just teach people again from where we are, what we've done to at least get here. And then as we grow, it'll be another one, and we'll teach you how to get there. And I think it's just about paying it forward, and it just that's all we're trying to do, because normally, the before COVID and all this stuff, I was doing this stuff in person, and I was trying to like be one person at everywhere, and then having office hours where people come in and talk. And then it just got wrapped up, and it's like, this needs to just be online. Like, this just needs to be a school. And then at the time, the ancestors blessed me with Lindi and this amazing team and everything. And it just came together. And it came together. So it's just not even the Monroe Accelerator. It's like, it's definitely our coalition accelerator, because it took Maya, Lindi, it took Zoli, it took Peter, it took the film crew from California. It took everybody to really bring something that was just not a Zoom or anything. This is like Oprah Masterclass level, and that's what I kept saying. I was like, it needs to look like an Oprah Masterclass. And I'm telling you, the work that Lindi and Maya put in on this, and the curriculum, and the amount of research and the amount of love that they put into this is just.
I'm so excited to check it out, and as you mentioned, like this team and coalition and collaboration. You guys work so well together. You and Lindi have created this really powerful partnership, and really building out and seeing a vision and staying true to task, right? You mentioned the $60 million of bids and proposals that you put in through these systems and consistent effort. Lindi, how has this collaboration been for you? And then as far as putting together the Monroe Accelerator, what do you want people to take away from that and using to enhance their business practices and really again, find economic opportunity in this space?
It's been so great. I think it's like you guys are named soulful synergy at its in play, I think one takeaway from the accelerator, to echo one of Desmonde's points, is that there is so much value in user experience. And if you have an agency telling you, oh, you should do this, like that, I don't know. They don't actually know what it's like to be writing these RFPs, to be pulling together with few people on your team, but we do. You know what I mean? Like we've done it with not a whole lot of staff, but a lot of output. And so it's really just understanding those specific and nuanced pain points, but also bright spots that come within any certified firm that we're really trying to spell out and systematize so that anyone can really ramp up their system to really get that output out there and get ultimately more bids. And there's a lot of little tricks, or not even little tricks, big tricks that go a long way in the work that we do in the public sector.
And into those tricks, and not even just tricks, I would say you guys have principles, right? Fundamentals, right? And Desmonde, I would ask to you, what are some of those principles, or what would you describe as those principles, fundamental bedrocks of being able to be successful as an MWBE out here, right? And I know one of them is that if you don't have the proper email, you're not even responding to them. So I'm gonna put that one out there right away. So I hear you.
No AOL, no AOL.com,
no Yahoo. but if again, I would love for you just to give us a simple blueprint or again of your principles of what would make a successful MWB and how be able to pursue these procurement opportunities?
So, all right, can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you that what I think it takes, you have to definitely think outside the box, right? But you can't be afraid. You have to be okay to make those mistakes. But as you make those mistakes, you have to learn and you have to pivot very quickly because there's one thing that always said, and it just rings true. She was like, "You are a Black man in America. You have to be stronger, faster, and smarter than everybody else. So you're gonna have to work harder, and it seems like it sucks. It does, but then find your voice and start telling people about that struggle and that story, and then that leads to people listening, and it leads to those thought leadership pieces, and that just kind of helps with getting your brand. So not only craft your services, is that because I don't want to like go down like, you know what, make sure your product is great, because I'm sure your product is great, but sometimes you don't get seen, and that is the important part. Is, you know, I talk to people about like not begging to be at somebody else's table and, you know, making your own, but sometimes in this business you have to walk into those other rooms and you have to perform. And I put it that way because you just have to be that person that they're going to buy from, and you have to be that brand, and you have to be that product, and you have to keep doing it. And only once you get stable, then can you take a step back and be yourself.
No, we really appreciate that, right? I mean, I think that us as Soulful Synergy, having even a brand that's Soulful Synergy is like, what are you, right? And being able to establish ourselves and being able to create that narrative is super important. And I mean, to be able to do that too, though, you need to have a certain level of credibility, right? And that credibility is developed through relationship building, right? And having other people, other organizations, individuals, influencers, what have you, to endorse you, right? And Lindi, let me ask you, I'm curious, you know, coming into this space once again, fresh, you know, into your career, and having to develop these relationships and having to pretty much, you know, brand Monroe Group, even you know, endorse Soulful Synergy. What kind of hardships have you encountered, and then also what value have you found in understanding and building these relationships and making sure that and almost that, you know, Monroe Group has this omnipresence in the space of procurement for the MWBE space. So yeah, I'm curious to hear your perception on that.
I would say that procurement is a grind, right? Just writing an RFP itself, it's not fun. And doing it over and over and over and getting rejected is also not fun. But knowing that if you do it enough, you will at some point win and win big, that's important. And celebrating the small wins is also important. It's easy to get rejected enough times and give up, but the key is to actually know and trust your systems, build them up so that you know that the quality is there, and then just trust that one day an agency will say yes and award you a contract that you are really excited about. It's a grind, but it's kind of a trust in yourself and your own firm.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, this proposal writing process has been a learning curve for sure, right? There's so much information that they want. It's so much detail, nuance, scope of work, budgets, you know, so it is a grind, and most of it is not fun. Doing the work is the fun part, right? Doing the actual implementation of the project, seeing the project come to life, that's really the joy. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. The one thing that has made your proposals, I think, a little bit stronger, as you mentioned, and, you know, it's kind of been a little bit of the theme, is these strategic partnerships. And I know, Desmond, you know, you were very specific about building out some of these strategic partnerships, one of which is Walker Ridge and then others. Could you talk about how those have helped even your thought process and maybe even confidence going into some of these bids, knowing that you have a team around you that can help fulfill some of these needs? Because a lot of what we're talking about through our coalition and this community building is that we are stronger together. You guys have coined that term very much so for the Monroe Accelerator. is like, how do you build out these communities, these really strong collaborative relationships, and how have they helped kind of improve your confidence or even improved your ability to level up in this space?
Well, I mean, my partnership with Walker Ridge is really special. I like smile. So you know, um, they're really good guys, and we kind of met by accident, and it was a relationship that took a while to develop. And then before we even like moved in and kind of like really joined forces. But yeah, it's helped tremendously because now our options became a lot bigger, right? So we were able to then look at these development projects and things like that. Then we had the capacity, you know, we had then access to capital. So all those things definitely help. And these are all the things that we were talking about during the meeting. And again, there are, you know, traditional ways of going about it, which is, you know, the banks or the 0% interest loan, which is great. I mean, it's amazing. But there are also, you know, non-traditional ways. And that's then, you know, merging companies with somebody who has the same sort of mission statement and is willing to go down that journey with you. And then that way, the both of you can build something bigger. That's that's the way we decided to go. Um, and I think it was the best route because because that has started all this. Like, you know what I mean? Without that happening, there wouldn't have been like a Desmond and Lindi meetup. There wouldn't have been, you know, Desmond and Ivana and all the other people that there, and we all work together. And then it wouldn't happen in the accelerator. So I think, you know, when you find the right connection, like it's the shotgun wedding, when you find the right, you know, you find that right thing, yeah, it works. So
Lock it down. Put a ring on
yeah, yeah, put a ring on it, right? So I don't. That's not the norm. I know other people have some of the things, but people need to when they go into this stuff. And again, it took us a year before we got to like the point where we were actually sharing office space. So it was a long courtship, and exactly where we wanted to go, and we had the same vision. Things still take time to be worked out, but you know, it's a strong connection. So
That's awesome. So I want to pivot just a little bit. So we talked a lot of business stuff, and I like business, but now we want to talk a little bit more on the community side. What do you want to see for communities of color, for disenfranchised communities, for disadvantaged communities? Lindi, what does a win look like? And I know you mentioned incremental change, and definitely we understand the process is long, but what would a healthy, thriving community look like in your eyes?
To me, it would look like us making opportunities for ourselves. You know what I mean? It would be a lot more entrepreneurship. It would be tapping into sources in a strategic way, in terms of like income sources, contract sources, but also a sense of not doing it ourselves, but making it so that we grow. And I mean like people, a community of people of color. We grow ourselves to a point where we can really support ourselves and do it ourselves.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So, and thank you, Dwayne, for changing the making this pivot, because I was really curious about that, right? Because I mean, Desmond, you know that one of the things that brought us all together was a sense of community, right? It was one of those things where when we were able to connect with you. It was you playing more so the mentor to us and helping us understand that within these development opportunities, that there was a certain need to be able to help develop the local community and being able to do so, right? And within that, I would say, what from your experience, what's a good platform, I would say, or program that you have seen out there that that you even maybe surprised that hasn't been, I guess, replicated, not even talking about social synergy or anything like that, but just what need as far as even training around these developments and creating the sense of community, because again, to be able to create inclusion, people have to be able to participate in these jobs and these careers, right? So I'm curious to hear from you, the person that would even, I guess, in essence, be the ones procuring also these training programs. So what would you be looking for as something that would be effective to be able to uplift the community?
I mean, I would want to do more business development. Like if I could get some business development, I don't know, not for profits or firms, but run by entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Because then that thing it would help them get the MWBs ready, right? So I think there needs to be more business building, and I think less employment. And I know not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur or a boss, but there are some people who are doing, they're kitchen beauticians. They need to start, opening up businesses, hiring people, and paying fair wages. Like Lindy said, it goes back to us doing for us. So that's kind of if I could definitely invest in something, it would be more like really strong business incubators, like with top-notch people, and teach them everything from certifications, branding, business development, and then also taking that into schools because I know that some people just won't go to college. They don't want to. It's not going to happen, but it doesn't mean they can't own a business. It doesn't mean that they don't know about entrepreneurship. Um, and some people, even if they do graduate, they may want to go to trade schools. Construction is huge. You know what I mean? There can be more masonry people, more electricians, or all this and so I think, along with if I could pay for 2 years free, community college, but if you didn't want to go there, get a trade, pay for somebody to get a trade. Because then they can start a welding company or they can do whatever they want. But it's just providing those opportunities for people. I think that's just a baseline that we can pretty much do. And I think I would like to see companies doing that in communities.
I got a question. I got a question that's a little offbeat, but one thing I think about quite a bit, which is, for many communities, property taxes, right, go towards funding the schools and a lot of the social services that people tap into that help to make their communities healthier and stronger. When you live in affordable housing, public housing, etc., there's no property taxes to pay, revenue is not there, and that's where the school systems tend to be worse, etc. Would you ever be in favor, and I don't know if there's something that you speak about, but would you be in favor of having a way for people to buy into ownership of public or affordable housing? So they reside there, but as opposed to just living there at a reduced rent, over time they actually gain ownership and shares, almost like a co-op. But they would actually eventually take over some form of ownership and eventually be able to have something of their own. Or do you think that affordable housing, in the way that it currently functions, is a sustainable model?
We're actually starting a project. We are on the cusp of one of the first affordable housing ownership models in the city.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great model that we're testing out in the city, but can be available and replicated across the nation even, because home ownership is actually building equity, right?
Yeah.
Renting is just giving your landlord money month after month. So that theme or notion of building equity in an affordable, accessible way is definitely asset-based economic development. Desmond sends me a lot of textbooks, and that's but yeah, it's the way of the future. Yeah.
So has that model been implemented elsewhere? And out of curiosity, are these only for private, or these partially public funded, completely public funded? Just curious to know how you imagine that playing out in some of these pilot programs. Desmond or Lindi?
I think it's a public-private model in which it's partially funded by the government and then partially funded by the developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the participant, who's the occupant, will be able to buy into some form of ownership over a period of time, and then you ideally retain either like a maybe 50%, 80%, maybe it won't be 100% ownership, but they will be able to gain some form of equity over a payment period.
No,
it's 100% ownership.
Yeah, it's a mortgage, but it's subsidized mortgage because the government comes in and pays half of that. So it's subsidized, and so just like paying their rent, they are paying into it, but they're also part of managing the building itself. And I think that sort of.
And on the developer side, what do you think would be some of the pushback from developers who want the the perpetual income, right? Now they're giving up. Now they got to go build a new development because there's no more income to really gain from that one because now the ownership is somebody else's. So do you think there'll be a lot
Well,
of pushback from the developer side?
in a sense, you get your feedback, right? Because in technically the city is paying you to build it. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
just upfront costs in your developer buy-in, and well, this one you have to you have to sell it, but I mean, you get your money back, and most probably developers are going to do this, and like the other like rentals where the city pays for it all, all of it. So there are companies who've been very lucrative doing L&M, doing affordable housing development. So yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
I'm curious from the resident standpoint. How what are the barriers for a resident, for somebody that would like to participate in something like that to be able to get involved in that, right? I mean, from a developer standpoint, yeah, it's they're they're losing money, but even from the resident standpoint, how and it's, I guess for you, Desmond, how would it just a normal person like me be able to get him to even get involved in something like that? And then furthermore, how can we even manage if we've never even owned the property to be able to take on even owning an asset like that, even now afterwards to have to pay taxes on that, right? Because once you own the property, we're liable for other expenses. So again, I'm just looking at it from an individual that would take on an opportunity like this. What would be those barriers, and again, what education potentially would be there to manage an opportunity like this for someone that never had a piece of property?
I don't even know if I'm the one to answer this question. Lindy just finished a 500 page.
Lindy,
I'm not gonna lie.
are you?
I really think
Yeah, I
Lindy
can
is
take
the
it.
one to answer this
Slam
question.
dunk.
Okay, so using basically this program as a model,
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I'm right that it would be tax free for at least 50 years for the resident. And then any resident who is applying would also be required to take financial classes to learn more about the mortgage paying process and everything that a home entails, just as part of the financing model. Some of the barriers would definitely be you would still need to have at least decent credit to apply for a home mortgage loan. And then you would have to understand the process of the lottery that's involved with this. And there will be like info sessions and all of that. But one of the biggest barriers for all communities of color really is just that information spread, right? Like people don't necessarily even have internet or access or know what links to click. And one of the biggest things is getting that information out there in a way that your communities that you're really looking to support are able to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes you don't even know if you qualify, right? So
Yeah.
information is out there, and making sure people can understand the language in a way that they can participate. And I am sure that the wait list for that lottery and all that other stuff will be a difficult thing up front, because even for Michelamas or for a lot of the subsidized housing in New York, the wait lists are long. But as this model hopefully becomes the norm, it won't be such a difficult process. So I love that. I actually had no idea you guys were working on that project. Just something that I think about all the time and wanted to hear your perspective. So I like that. As we're going to wind down here in the next few minutes, anything that you would like for our listeners and people on the other side of this telecast to know about your work or about community development as a whole? I know for us, we believe in these collaborative relationships. We believe that we can do things together. But what would be one of your parting words to encourage people to stay on the path and do the right thing, as my man Desmond said, and not contribute to the mess?
I guess I would just say, and even times when you feel really, really small, you're bigger than you think. And so understand that what you do, even in your own trade and whatever that is, we know artists that do great things for community development, and developers. So even within your trade, you can have that impact. You just have to, and it won't knock you out of your flow. Like you can still go the way you want, but different ways you can affect, with your talent, and just, and again, even when you think you're small, you're bigger than you think, because there will definitely become challenges. So even when you think you're small, you're bigger than you think.
Did you in your career, Desmond, did you ever have a mentor? Did you have to pick up a lot of these things on your own, or did you have somebody kind of show you the ropes and give you that sense that there was a blueprint that you could follow?
Latoya Murphy. So yeah, one of all right. So two very pivotal people, Anna Ford, my mother, and Latoya Murphy. They were two strong, very, 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 very strong women who were at the top of their game. And my mother unfortunately passed. But it's like as soon as my mother passed, like I think it was like maybe like 2 years later, I was smack dead right into Latoya, and it was like I wasn't done cooking yet. And then she took over the rest of the cooking and was just like, all right, this is how we need to simmer you. And again, I'm still cooking. And I think that's why I always land to strong women. That's why I'm like landing this to Lindi, because I'm still cooking and I need to learn some things. And for me, it's always strong feminine energy that helps me elevate to that next level. So I just still say, and that's where I get those sayings, even when you think you're small, you're bigger than you think.
Awesome. I love that answer. Lindi, more or less same question. As we are going to wrap here in a few minutes, what do you feel like is an important thing to convey about your journey and what it's taking you to get where you are, and how you think it's going to have impact for the years to come? Because I think we all do this work with the goal of having impact and leaving some form of legacy. So what has your journey been like a little bit, and lessons you've learned, and what do you think it will leave behind when you're done?
I think that we just like as a world are seeing a huge shift right now, where people are kind of waking up and thinking about what they actually want in life, and maybe a 9 to 5 isn't it. Maybe they do want to be entrepreneurs, maybe they do want a virtual job or something like that. And I think the key is to just really sit with yourself and listen to what you want out of life. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to follow any specific model that's being prescribed to you. And there are people like Desmond, Alex, and Nguyen, hoping to support whatever your dream is. Just keep dreaming it, because you don't have to follow any kind of mold.
No, I fully agree with that. I think there is a lot of people that want a level of say and independence in their lives. So whether it is entrepreneurship, but just having more control. And I think that's part of our economic system, has created these almost like indentured servitude, where people don't feel like they have freedom to express and take breaks and explore and adventure, because you're tied to your job all day. And so whether it's through entrepreneurship or just through better minimum wages, I think there's so many ways that we want to see our systems improve. Same question though, mentorship. Has there been anybody in your professional or personal development, Lindi, that has really helped to shape you, or has it been kind of you figured it out as you went?
I would definitely call Desmond a mentor for sure. Desmond, and even like his partners Peter and Zoli, they're really wonderful. And then I would say I take little bits of mentoring and learning from everyone in my life, like the kindness we see in Ivana, or the creativity I see from my boyfriend or my other friends. Like, there's something to learn from everybody in your life, and they can all be your mentors, really.
Awesome. Alex, you guys a couple of last thoughts for us?
I always have lots of last thoughts, team. But as you know, I like the point that we talked about our heroes, and we're all walking through our heroes' journeys, right? And we all slayed our dragons, coming back and sharing what we learn as we've done it. But I think earlier on we had to kind of either endorse, glorify certain superheroes, right? And I'm always curious to when I meet individuals that are out there really putting in the work. What superhero do you embody, right? Because even just this week, I heard one of our clients say it out loud. With great powers comes great responsibility. And I looked at him, I was like, oh, that's I hear you, man. So I'm curious, Desmond. Like, if you were a superhero, who would you be? Not even your own superpowers. I'm curious to hear that. And you too, Lindi. and I would love to close it down with that. Because again, even today with MWBE, I sent my business partner a good old GIF of a Super Saiyan. I was like, it's time to turn up, and poof, that's our go time. So yeah, Desmond, I'm curious to hear yours.
I guess I would have to, if I'm looking at like Marvel, so I guess I would have to say Storm only because she's so close to Oya. When it comes down to the Orisha Pantheon, and Oya, whenever she gets in her temper, like that's when you see the storm. So I mean, that's the only thing I can. Yeah.
Fair enough. I appreciate that, Lindi.
I'm honestly not too big on superheroes, but my real life superhero, one of them is Gordon Ramsay. He's real on the heat, but then he can be super sweet too, and he can chef up. That's a big passion of mine. So
I love it. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Awesome, team. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
That's really cool. So again, pleasure to be with you all today. We want to continue to have conversations that highlight good work being done. It is sometimes tough when you watch the news and you hear all the things that are going on in the world, and it feels like our systems don't work. It feels like our government doesn't work. Our systems of housing are broken. Our system of business and economics feels a little corrupted, and people are being short. Like, it just feels like sometimes there's so much. But there are people out here doing work, and to Lindy's point, it takes time. But we have to be engaged. We don't get to pass the buck. We don't get to shift it over to somebody else and say, you know what, things aren't great or they're not what we'd like them to be. I'll just, keep riding the misery wave until, it's all over. You got to get engaged. You got to be in the game. And whether that's politically, whether that's economically, whether that's, civically, whether that's, volunteering, but there's ways to be able to be a part of something that's bigger. And I'm so appreciative to these two because they've chosen to use their profession as a way to turn the tide and to have Black-owned and minority-owned developments and giving people jobs and business and opportunity, but also using it as a way to empower communities. If you see some of the projects they're working on, these projects are not only big, but they have community spaces, they have gardens, they have, places for kids to learn. They have, all these things that are transforming communities that have never had these types of resources before. And, this is a way that you can use your professional skill to have an impact on a social and again, broad economic level. So really happy for the conversation today. I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank our partners at Soul City TV for always holding us down and making this show possible. And as Lindi mentioned, the Monroe Accelerator drops today. So if you are an MWBE or a business that's looking to take your business to the next level, go onto their website, monroegroupllc.com, or look it up on Facebook. And we've also created a Facebook coalition page, which will drop in our Facebook page a little bit later for you to check out. But you want to be part of this community because big things are coming. So thank you all. Have a great day. Appreciate you for joining.
thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.